You're listening to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Did you know that you could build a tax-free pool of wealth that's liquid and accessible all your life while building your retirement nest egg? Gain full control of your financial future and stop relying on the government and banks. The wealthy have already discovered this wealth-building secret. Now it's your turn to get financially secure without following the conventional wisdom that keeps you in debt to banks. Now here's your host, Valerie LaRocque.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope that you are doing well and had a great week, enjoying your fall. So when I was going through my last podcast talking about how banks are turning our money, as in we house our money with a bank and they turn around and sell it back to us, I realized that I forgot to point out that as they are wrapping our money with interest, they are also loaning out more money than what we have sitting with them in our savings accounts. So they are not just loaning out what you have sitting with them to one borrower, but multiple borrowers. So they are earning interest from more than one borrower based on that savings pool of money or cash that you have in the bank with them. I have said this before in previous podcasts, much earlier ones, but I just wanted to reiterate that again, that they are loaning out, turning your money, wrapping it with interest and selling it back to us. And by us, I don't mean necessarily selling it right back to you, but to borrowers. Us as a borrower and a saver, we're trying to save the money and we're also needing to borrow the money. And so they are wrapping it with interest and selling it back to us, but more than one person, they are loaning it back to multiple people and then earning that interest off of each transaction, each loan that they are giving out. Now, this next little section that I will be going over from Nelson's book is a section I've talked about before as well, kind of going through the book, and some of these things I spoke about in the beginning when I started the podcast. So it's been almost 2 years since I've talked about this topic, but I thought I would just continue what I'm doing, kind of going through the book and reviewing again things I've already talked about as needed. And in case this is the first time you're tuning in and haven't heard the other episodes most recently, we are talking about Becoming Your Own Banker, Nelson Nash's book. Now, this section starts off with a Bible verse. This is page 17. And Nelson actually has Bible verses all throughout his book. But this one says, when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Now, I believe that the significance of starting off the section this way is because Nelson used to always say, if you know what the problem is, you'll know what to do. So that's why I, at least hope, most of us IBC practitioners are trying to educate whenever possible what the deeper problem here is, as in what the underlying problem is. And that underlying problem is that our banking system and government are inflating the money supply. Our Federal Reserve is involved in this, as well as banks when they fractional reserve bank by loaning out more money than they have on hand or in their vaults. And another part of this that you may not be aware of that I certainly think is a problem is that as soon as we make a deposit into our local bank, we become unsecured creditors. Meaning, if your bank were to go under, according to the Dodd-Frank Act, which was passed in 2010 after the 2008 crisis, you and those that have accounts at your same bank would be the ones to bail out that bank. It's called a bank bail-in. In addition, that legislation is where bank depositors are named the unsecured creditors. And the unsecured creditors are the first ones to bail out the bank, or in technical terms, bail in. So I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty messed up to me. I don't think that when I deposit money into the bank that I should suddenly no longer be the owner of that money, that I become an unsecured creditor and that money I just deposited in the bank is now yours and you're basically giving me an IOU on that money. Not cool at all. It's really scary, actually. So due to the inflation of the money supply in this way and by the Federal Reserve, it's actually way safer to house your savings dollars inside of a life insurance policy. moving your savings dollars from your bank account to a life insurance policy is going to keep those dollars from sitting in the bank so that the bank isn't using your money to inflate the money supply. And also, you're not at risk of having to be a part of a bank bail-in. So that's why I think this verse at the beginning of the next section, page 17, starts off that section so well, and leads right into the phrase that Nelson would always repeat: if you know what the problem is, you'll know what to do. Or are you wanting to get well? Are you wanting your country to get well? Are you wanting the economy and the money supply and the money system to get well? If you want it to get well, you can participate in helping that to become a reality by becoming your own banker and using whole life to do so, just to house your savings dollars there. It is a way to get away from participating in the inflating of the money supply. And that's awesome, because remember, life insurance companies don't participate in fractional reserve banking, and you have the first right to borrow the money in your policy. You have the first right to borrow against the money in your policy. And when you do, no one else is able to borrow those same dollars. That same value of money that you've just borrowed, you're the only one who has those first rights to borrow that money, and then no one else is borrowing against that same value from the insurance company. And your loan is backed by your own dollars. I get clients calling me oftentimes who sound worried when they're buying a property, buying a vacation property or a rental property, or moving themselves, and they need to know the information in their whole life policy, and they're concerned about any outstanding loans, or maybe they have built up the amount inside their policy and plan to take a loan for the down payment on their new house. And they call concerned because they don't want the bank to know about it, or they think it's going to cause a problem, or the bank's not going to like it or allow them to get that new mortgage. But the mortgage company actually doesn't care. It's really awesome. They don't care about any loans against your life insurance, since those loans are backed by your own money. So I can always deliver good news. Your bank's not going to worry about it. The mortgage company is not going to care about it. Here's a printout, and it's all going to be good because it's backed by your own money. In fact, those loans can even be eliminated internally if life happens and you had a plan to pay it back, or you had a plan to pay something else off and redirect it to your system, or pay some large thing off and then redirect those funds to your system. If you had some sort of plan and it's not working out, life happens and you're in a really critical position, or maybe you've lost a job and now you're unable to manage the debts that you have, including your life insurance loan, you can always eliminate it internally. I just don't recommend doing that it's more of a last resort, but it is possible. Since it's backed by your own money, you could eliminate that loan internally and relieve that pressure. If you've just gotten way in over your head and it's just too much to bear, you have too much going on, it is possible. And remember, when you get to the retirement years, we don't expect you to have to pay all those loans back or borrow money and pay it all back. There is a plan for you to be able just to withdraw in those retirement years. And the reason I don't recommend eliminating your loan internally very often or almost never is because when you do that, you're going to be lowering your cash value account, also your death benefit, but you're going to be lowering your cash value account. And the whole idea behind infinite banking, or part of the idea, because keeping your money in motion is really the big idea, but a big part of it is that your money is able to continue to grow uninterrupted with compounding interest. But if we reduce money out of it or eliminate that debt, we're going to end up lowering our cash value, almost like you're withdrawing money. So if you have a snowball rolling and we're wanting that to get bigger, we don't want to cut that snowball in half halfway through our lives and then start again from that position. So we don't really want to have to reduce the cash value by eliminating that. It's just an option. So there's all this additional benefit to becoming your own banker, using a whole life policy to flow your cash through and capture the earning power of as many dollars as you can. But when people get excited about this concept, it's usually always because of how the cash value account will grow on a guaranteed basis, how the cash is accessible, income tax free all of your life, how the account can continue to grow even as you borrow against it, how it will be guaranteed to leave a death benefit. And a portion of the death benefit is accessible if you were to have a critical, chronic, or terminal illness. People get excited about all these more obvious, awesome features, which I do love. They are amazing. And the most often aren't realizing the underlying power it has to help our country from continuing to deepen the mess we've gotten ourselves into. How it has the power to help our country get well. Well, wow. I only got as far as the verse at the top of page 17 today. There's just so much wisdom in these pages. Even every time I read it, I still am learning something new or finding some new insight. I'm always learning from Nelson's words. Sometimes we get together with other practitioners or a think tank or with other people that specialize in this in our agency, and we're still always learning new things from Nelson. He just had so much wisdom to share. It's just a gift that keeps on giving. Well, I'm going to stop here for now and pick up where I left off next time and go over again a part of the book that I've gone over before and just get into that information and talk it out and help you to remember about this the very important book, Nelson's book, that really shines a light on how this concept was conceived and how it's so powerful to help our country, help our own personal financial world, help us to become financially free, and also help our country while we're doing it. So if you'd like to work together, you know how to reach me, Valerie@alphaomegawealth.com. Hope that you have a great week and keep enjoying this holiday season and fall season and just time with your loved ones. I will talk to you again next week. Take care.
This is the podcastfactory.com.